Hi, my name's Emily Turner. This assignment is about someone who has helped shape the course of history. And the individual that I chose for this assignment is Alexander Hamilton. If you have seen the Broadway play Hamilton, you know that Alexander Hamilton is pretty messy. He's a pretty messy guy. And his reputation has constantly gone back and forth between good and bad pretty often. In all honesty, before the Broadway musical came out, it's safe to say that no one really paid much attention to Alexander Hamilton unless maybe you were in like the treasury, like into all that type thing. But I went all throughout school not learning a thing about him. I never learned anything about him in school. It just wasn't like, he wasn't just in the topics that were required to be taught. All I knew that was that he was on the $10 bill. And that's about it. I think even at some point I was like, maybe this guy was a president? I don't know. I didn't know anything about him. I was never taught anything about him. He has a small section at George Washington's Mount Vernon Museum. So we knew about him in that sense, in how he, helped George Washington and everything, but there was not much to really know about him. He wasn't very super well known. So we're going to talk about the narrative of him. So what people thought about him whenever he was alive. So let's dig into what the narrative around him looked like back in his prime time, which was in the late 1700s and early 1800s. It's obvious that Hamilton was a force to be reckoned with for sure. His name still lives on today and is more popular than it has been in the last 100 years. So that's definitely something to think about. It's always a big deal whenever someone is still famous after they die, or even more famous than before they died. So he affected history and America heavily. But what did the American people think of Hamilton? Of course, he was perceived as extremely intelligent and also extremely arrogant. According to Cram, it says the reason that Hamilton caused such a great influence on the newfound country is because his views on everything around him were different from that of society. So it is common knowledge that people did not particularly like Hamilton. He kind of was a brat. He came across as very entitled. He definitely wasn't super easy to get along with, and that's pretty common knowledge. According to Quora, this was wonderfully said. I loved how they said it. It read, "In short, he did a lot more defeating of enemies than making of friends." And I think that is pretty accurate for the life of Hamilton. He wasn't too concerned with making friends, and he was more concerned with his agenda and rising to the top, and that kind of set him kind of behind when it came to his narrative and what people thought of him. As for how the narrative around Alexander Hamilton has changed, we honestly, in my opinion, we really have Hamilton the musical to thank, which is silly, but it seriously is. Lin-Manuel Miranda shows us many sides of Hamilton, and it's all based off of the true story. There's a couple like timing things that aren't super accurate, but the storyline is pretty accurate. The hardworking, determined side is showed, the bold and the daring and the willing to, mess up and make things happen. That side is shown. And then also all of his many defeats and mistakes are shown as well. And then also all of the awesome things that he really did do for our country. It all adds up to make one real person. And I think showing all those sides makes him a person who can be related to. It makes him likable. People in his time didn't have all of those different sides available to them, which made him a lot less likable than he is, knowing everything that happened in his life, how everything played out. He made some mess ups, hurt a lot of people, including himself, got murdered, so he obviously wasn't super liked. But seeing the details of his life and how the people who loved him forgave him for his mess ups and all of that, it really makes America, the consumers of the play, interested in his life. I know whenever I watched it, I bought the biography that the movie is actually based off of, because I was just interested in his life, and I think he no longer became the random guy on the $10 bill, but he became someone who I wanted to know about. And same goes for a lot of people that I know personally that saw the play and was like, wow, this is one of our founding fathers. Like, I want to know about him. He is so interesting. And I think being interested in him is such a good sign. It's pretty cool for young people to be interested in their country's founding fathers. And I think this is a good start to that. People may or may not be huge fans of his, but they're at least taking notice. So, thank you. Have a good day.